Attention Big Blue Nation. Welcome to Kentucky Basketball Then and Now, a unique exploration of America's paramount collegiate hardwood program, featuring anecdotes and memories from the 1950s forward to the very latest on everything UK hoops. Kentucky Basketball Then and Now seats Wildcat fans front court and center. Here's Lexington native and SEC standout Gary Waddell and Owensboro native and Rupp Front senior student manager Mike Harreld.
Hello and welcome again to another edition of Kentucky Basketball Then and Now. I know you're getting tired of hearing it, but I'm Gary Waddell, and I've got my two sidekicks with me, Mike Harreld and Tom Gray. Tom is I think you know by now, lives in across from Cincinnati and Covington, so he's got some of that vibe from northern Kentucky about the Cats. Before I forget, though, and maybe you guys have seen it, but there was a really good article on UK, a large article, took a third of the page probably, in either yesterday or Monday's Wall Street Journal in the sports page, which is like two pages or so before the editorials. And big headline that had Kentucky, or a positive headline. I mean, this article is going to be great for recruiting. And it's just about Kentucky, doesn't mention any other schools. No surprise, but UK has more players playing in the playoffs than any other team in history. It seems like every team's got a UK guy on there. There's a couple exceptions, Boston and a couple others. But I don't know if you've been watching the NBA, but I think to me, it's been quite interesting. Once I watched 2 or 3 games and got used to walking and the Euro step walk, it's pretty good basketball, great athletes, and let's say the least.
Yeah, not only does UK have more players, but I think they have more players at a higher level too.
You're right. The best players on every team seem to be, not every team, but seem to be UK guys, starting with Jamal Murray and Booker, and got a lot of good ones.
It's still amazing to me that Devin Booker never started a game at Kentucky.
No, but at the time, I don't think he should have. I mean, he was freshman. We had some pretty good teammates above him at that point, but he certainly has developed into maybe maybe the best shooting guard we've had since who knows who.
So what if they do great in the NBA? When are we going to see some results at the college level?
Oh yeah, I mean, if we're counting on that, we might as well just go to another sport. They win every 20 years on average, so and Adolph won every 20 years, and it may be another 20, but. So they were together in UK, and if they didn't produce, to me, that doesn't mean I'm not going to watch them in the pros. I watch most every year, and there's no Kentucky player that's playing. Booker hit one last night. He was in the 3-second lane, maybe 5 feet in front of the basket. He was facing and looking at the other basket down the court and just threw it over his head, and it banked in, which was kind of a incredible. You don't practice that one, I don't think, when you can't see the basket. But there's been some good games. Even the Hawks surprised everybody last night. And
Gary, one thing that surprised me this spring is Kentucky's been pretty silent in the transfer portal. We've sent a few guys into it, but we really haven't chased any guys who are in it besides Hunter Dickinson, and there was one other guy, Harrison Ingram, that went to UNC. So I don't know if Cal's waiting on his guys to decide what to do or what, but it doesn't seem like he's got he's counting on a couple of them coming back. Whether they do or not, I don't know. But we're not really new players in the transfer portal like others seem to be doing.
I don't think there's any confidence. Oscar's coming back. I don't sense it. Oscar, one way or the other, I don't see Oscar unless they guaranteed to give him $4 or $5 million a year, the boosters. But I bet Oscar is not with us next year. If we don't get Dixon, I hope I'm wrong. But you look at Dixon's stats, and they're just as good as, if not better than Oscar's. And he's 7'1". He's not a great shot blocker, but he's 7'1", which gives us a lot of height inside, which we haven't had. But so it's going to be. I saw a picture in the paper of them eating at the downtown steakhouse that's so popular.
Jeff Ruby.
Yeah, Jeff Ruby, and boy, he's a big guy. So he's tall, very tall.
He has a family in Paducah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
I
that's
did not.
somewhat of a touch to bring him to Kentucky.
Huh. Okay. I hadn't read that. Didn't know that. He's not going to overwhelm anybody with personality like Oscar did, but again, that's not very important in the big scheme of things. And I didn't realize he's got 2 years of eligibility left.
Yeah, the COVID year doesn't count as a year of eligibility, and that's one of his years.
No, I know it. I assumed he'd already used that COVID year, but he hadn't. That COVID year, I guess it depends if kid's on your team or not, but that's I'll be glad when that's over, that 1 year that everybody gets a mulligan, so to speak.
Yeah, for example, Damian Collins doesn't get a COVID year because he wasn't in college in 2020. So he only gets 2 more years of eligibility. He sat the bench at UK for 2 years, didn't do much. And so he has 2 years to do something somewhere else. So he doesn't get a COVID year. So
yeah. You know, he has not definitely said he's not coming back yet, which is a little surprising.
yeah, I think he has. His announcement was kind of covered up by the CJ Frederick announcement. They took place at just about the same time. But he pretty much said, I'm gone.
Yeah, I know.
Home.
But it's going to be quite something. As I mentioned, the way they call it in the pros, every year it's like this, so I got to get used to it, I guess, when I watch it. But it seems like they walk on about every third or fourth play going to the basket. And this Euro step has got to be walking. I mean, they take 2 steps, then take a giant step laterally to left or right side, typically left side. So, I mean, that's 3 steps and never gets called. If the Euro step was you take 2 and then you take another toward the basket, it'd be called every time. It'd be so obvious that you're taking another step, but it's not so much, and it's a cool thing to do. I don't think a referee would have the guts to call it, but to me, it might as well. I wish I was around 60 years ago, 50 years ago. Growing up in Kentucky, and you guys are the same, you only get 1.5 steps before you're called for walking. And now it's like 2.5 at least.
Yeah, it's the pros have influenced the game. It's obvious what's happened. The NBA doesn't want the referees calling walking, and so people are watching that game and then allowing people to basically run with the ball, and then that's being pushed down to the college and high school level. It's just unfortunate, but it's a change in the way the game is played.
Yeah, exactly. Like a lot of things, it's changing. I was sorry to see CJ Frederick leave, and of course it's good for him. He's, I look at it, Mike, I think you would too, look at it a little, and Tom also look at it a little different in that if you're not going to go to the pros, and CJ isn't, I'd go to school where I want to live the rest of my career or life to get business connections. And of course, CJ being from Cincinnati has picked those up in Kentucky by playing at Covenant Catholic and then the UK. So for him, it's probably a good move going back to his hometown and get more recognition from the Cincinnati area. But I ain't seen him leave. I was hopefully he'd have a good year at UK, and hopefully he does that, but at Cincinnati.
He's not only from Cincinnati, he's from that part of town, not too far from where UC is located. I'd say it's maybe just a few miles from the home that he grew up in. His parents had a place on the east side of town. Like I said, about 2 or 3 miles from the UC campus. So it's really almost literally in his backyard.
He's doing the opposite of you, where you grew up in Kentucky, went across the river to high school at St. X, and then he grew up in Cincinnati and played high school in Kentucky, not far from where you live. So just a little ironic there.
There aren't many that do it the way he did it. That doesn't happen very often. Not sure why he came to Covenant Catholic. I suppose they have a pretty good program right now, so maybe he didn't like his options on the Cincinnati side. I don't know.
Yeah, and I can see why with the freshmen coming in, you got Shepard, you got Dillingham, and you got Wagner. Playing time is probably going to be more difficult than it was this year. Plus, if Reeves comes back, he'd probably look at that. Why take a chance? I didn't play much this year when I was healthy, so going to have more competition at the guard spot. But none of those guys, with the exception of Shepard, have a reputation of being any more than just average 3-point shooters. So sitting here, we're going to have trouble with 3-point shooting next year. Every year we do, except for a couple of early years where with Booker when he played, and we had a few, but we hadn't had consistent outside shooting in seems like a number of years now, which is very important, those threes.
That's one thing Pitino's teams really did year after year is they had 2 or 3 really good 3-point shooters. And since he's gone, we've had here and there some good ones, but not to the consistent level that we had in the 1990s.
No, but and Kelly Eulis was certainly a good outside shooter, I thought. And Booker again, but he didn't play that much his freshman year. But it's been, that's what cost us the title probably. Cal's first year had all that talent, but nobody could shoot outside. Wall couldn't, just didn't have that outside shooting, and that's why we lost to West Virginia in the final game. Poor shooting.
Mike, what do you think Adolph Rupp would have thought about the 3-point shot?
Well, he was very quick to adapt to changes, so I think he would have been trying to figure it out. It would have been a big change for him because especially the way Pitino approached it, is that if you had the ball and you were open, shoot it. Coach Rupp was much more wanting to be sure somebody was underneath to rebound if you missed. He didn't want somebody coming into front court with the ball or getting a pass and everybody scattered around all over the place and fire the ball up. That wasn't his style. Joe Hall did that some. That's how he beat Indiana in that major upset. But Coach Rupp was, I guess, more conservative. But I think he would have been willing to change if he saw the game was changing, because he certainly is constantly looking for ways to improve the team and the ways to play the game and beat somebody. So it's hard to say for sure, but I think he would have adapted.
Yeah, in his day, he drove the changes in a lot of cases.
Right.
He put a change in place that others had to adapt to.
Yes, he was a leader.
He would have loved it in '66, I'm assure you, with Louis Dampier.
Yeah, Louis Dampier would be I can't imagine how many 3-pointers a game he'd score. Half a dozen at least.
Yeah. And Riley from the corner would be threes too. He was pretty deep in that corner his senior year, especially against Vandy and Tennessee, as I recall, a lot of games. But guys, let's get serious here for a minute. We need a center badly next year, assuming that the guy we have now doesn't play very well. He's be his sophomore year, maybe he'll make dramatic improvement. But we need either we need Dickinson or Oscar to come back, I think. And if not, I guess where's our third choice? We go to Jameron Sharp, maybe?
The recruit Bradshaw, the 7-footer. He doesn't want to play center, though. He wants to play the 3 or the 4.
Yeah, Bradshaw, they could slide him in every day. No, he wants to play a 3, I think, much less a 4.
Yeah.
But, the 7'5" guy from Western is still out there, Sharp.
Yeah, that's true.
He can block some shots. I'm not sure he's a good offensive player other than, he had 4.5 blocks per game, which is pretty good last year. So I don't know what's happening with him, but that would seemingly be our third option for somebody new coming in. So we got with him, we'd have a 7'5" and a 7-foot on our back line there. 2 huge guys, but I don't know what he's going to do. He's been kind of quiet on that recruiting front, I think, and don't know.
UK's never had too much luck with the true 7-footers. Shagari Aline was not much.
No, you're right.
Wukash Workshot, not much. I don't know. We didn't have that many 7-footers, but for whatever reason, we've just never had a lot of luck with the true 7-footers. We haven't had that many of them. But if Dickinson comes, and I think it's more likely that he doesn't than he does, if he comes, it'll be interesting to see how Calipari adapts to that.
Yeah. Bowie, of course, was what, 7'1"?
Yeah, Bowie's the exception to that rule of thumb.
Yeah, I was injured with 4 out of the 5 years he was there, but he was pretty good. And Turpin was good, but Turpin wasn't quite 7 feet, I don't think. He was, they say 6'11". Who knows what those heights really are? So
Bowie's another one that would probably been better playing the 4 or the high post or whatever you want to call it. He was not a down low post scorer like Turpin was or some others. So Bowie's the kind of guy that we'd love to get another couple of those. Yeah,
but actually both of those guys were pretty good shooters. Turpin was a real good shooter from 20 feet in, had a nice touch, and then Bowie would shoot from 3-pointers in today's basketball. He doesn't mind going out at all. And I remember that year there were 2 great centers around the country that Joe wanted, Ralph Sampson and Bowie. And after they got Bowie and lost Sampson, maybe it was one of those key sports writers up there said, of the 2, I'd rather have Sampson, who'll play underneath and be more valuable underneath the basket than being 25 feet away and being 7 foot. But it didn't work out that way. Of course, Bowie was hurt so much it really didn't matter. I think he had 1 good year, didn't he, at UK, and where he was healthy the whole year. But anyway, that was a shame, the problems he had. He kind of pulled one off on Portland, though.
Yeah.
Which feel bad about. He lied and he admits. He said, I was hurting like crazy, but I knew I had to get this contract with Portland, or who knows what my life and family would do. And so when they asked him, did I guess pain in the leg is something that's subjective. And they said, do you feel this? And he said, no, I'm feel ready to go. And he was hurting like crazy. And then once he signed, he kind of let it be known he's got a knee problem. But anyway, I probably would have done the same thing. Who knows?
There's been a quiet spring in terms of players coming in. We signed them all in the fall.
Yeah.
I haven't heard much, even whispers, on the recruiting trail. And we've seen a lot leaving, but it's just unusual spring for UK. There's not a lot of buzz around the recruiting like there usually is.
You're right. And we're in the second season of UK, which is recruiting, but I don't think when you got those 5 out of the first 7 or 8 recruits in America that Cal's going to tread pretty lightly bringing in competition to them, or they'll be out of that program so quickly, maybe even before they play a game. You still, I think, transfer before you even go to class. So I think that's why, Tom, who wants to go in there knowing the coach favoring somebody that is playing my position already there has got to be a part of it. Wouldn't you think?
I think probably so. 4 of those guys figured to start right away, and 4 of them could leave after a year also.
I think the players are counting on it. All but Shepard, I think, are counting in being in the NBA this time next year, being drafted this time next year. You know that. They're all superstars.
How many players do we have in the fold for next year right now? It's so confusing about who's coming and going. I can't keep it straight.
We have 8.
Well, we just lost 3 guys, though, right? We lost the guy from the forward, and we lost Frederick, 2. Who else said we're going to lose Collins?
We lost Collins, Frederick, and Livingston. We have 8 coming back right now, not counting Walkerlands.
So, but we got 5 new ones coming in. So, I mean, we're going to have more players than Cal would like because he hates to manage those guys that can't play. Mike, we're going to have at least 13, I think.
I'm not including Oscar, Mike. He's still uncertain. I'm including Ware, Fierro, and Onyenso. That's the only 3 guys from last year's team back in the 5 recruits. So right now we have 8.
Yeah,
just 8.
So it's a very uncertain year coming up. I mean, I wouldn't want to bet a whole bunch of money on it, but
yeah, we need to see some positive movement, either filling out the roster or something, because what we have now is going to probably be interesting, but not a banner year, I don't think.
Well, you're right. Just think where we were a year ago, though. I know I am, and I think most fans are much more enthusiastic than they were a year ago because we got this, they say, fabulous freshman class coming in. Last year, we had nothing to look forward to. The 2 or 3 new recruits worked at it. They were rated all America 5 stars, but there's a big difference in being in the top 5 in the country and being a 5-star and being 15th. We've discovered that Duke was getting all those 1 through 5 or 4 through 10, and we weren't getting any. And they were whipped us one game 34 points. So all 5 stars aren't created equal, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But this year we got our share of the very best of the best of high school players. It's interesting that Wagner slipped a little bit, hadn't he? He's down to 4 or 5 now, I think, from what he was initially rated. But we'll take all those we can get. Bradshaw's moved up to number 1 or 2 in most people's rankings. Yeah. So, 7'1" and can shoot. He's and they say the best of all of them is going to be the kid from Tennessee. That he is really, really good, and may end up being the best of all the 5.
Is that the kid from Philadelphia that's the forward?
Yeah, what's his name? As soon as I hear the name, I'm going to know him.
His last name's Edwards. I don't remember his first name, but yeah,
Edwards. That's it. I couldn't think of his name.
He's right up there. Mike, what did Adolph have? He didn't really seem to care whether the guy was 5 stars or number 3 rated in the country. All-state, second team, not even top 100, but I can teach him how to play basketball. That's the gist I got. Adolph could take players that other guys didn't really focus on and make them into good players.
Oh, yeah. The gospel on him was he could take a good player and make him great, take a great one and make him an All-American. But you had to have the intestinal fortitude to go through what you were going to go through to get there. I mean, the secret a lot of Adolph's sauce was you practice. I mean, when Larry Conley and I would talk to other people and tell them that Kentucky had 30 minutes of individual moves and shooting intensely every day at practice, they would look at us like we were crazy. But the reason they always got better is they worked hard, and Coach Rupp and Coach Lancaster were right there watching. And if you weren't working as hard as you could, they were going to be on you. But they were also working on your techniques and that kind of stuff. And then when Coach Hall came, he was also good at that. So they, when I was there at least, and I think under Coach Hall and certainly Patino, Kentucky outworked most teams. It's hard for me to tell what's going on at times under Coach Cal.
Oh, he's getting quieter every year.
Yeah. I think they do work hard, but I don't know that. I haven't attended practice, and it just doesn't appear at times that they have the intensity that we had under Patino and Hall and Adolph.
What was the old joke they'd say about Bear Bryant? He can take his and beat yours. He can take yours and beat his.
Yeah. They said that about Phillips, too.
Big compliment on that joke for Bear Bryant. That's probably true.
Yeah.
Probably true. Well, Mike, what you got for us? I think you've maybe prepared. You got any good jokes for us?
Funny little thing. We used to, when we would land at another city to play, we would take taxi cabs and it'd be 4 or 5 in a cab, at least 4 maybe. Although some of the time with the driver, maybe only 3, so we had to have a bunch. But getting to the airport was much more informal. We just had a time that everybody was supposed to be there. And so one game, I think it was my junior year, somehow I wound up in a car with Coach Rupp and Terry Mobley and I can't remember who the other person was. And we were driving through the city on the way to the airport and stopped at a light. And Coach Rupp turns and looks at the other car, and it was two good-looking young ladies, and they saw him and recognized him and smiled and waved. And as we pulled off, he said, "Now, see there, fellas, just because there's a little snow on the roof doesn't mean there's not a hell of a fire underneath."
That's a good one.
That's good.
I could just hear Adolph saying it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he was always watching for the moment to do something or say something. He was a very sharp person, and he was intensely involved every time I was around him.
You mentioned Terry Mobley. I remember reading stories that Coach Rupp could not remember his name to save his soul.
Yeah.
So he would call him by his town, Harrodsburg. So
Yeah.
he referred to him as Harrodsburg instead of Terry or Mobley.
Yeah, that was common. He just had problems with remembering people's names. And I think it was made more planted in his brain because he actually drove up to Harrodsburg to sign Mobley. And, Coach Rupp was certainly intensely interested in recruiting and had his people out there working, but he was not personally involved nearly as much as coaches are today.
Yeah.
It just wasn't his style. Plus, he believed people ought to want to come to Kentucky. But driving to Harrodsburg, I think, to sign Terry made much more of an impression than what his name was. So he would call him that. Occasionally, he would call Randy Owensboro. He knew Conley because Larry had basically grown up there with George refereeing, and so he was around. He pretty much called Cron.
Well, let me give you a Abe Lemon. It's about Adolph, even. The first one's about Adolph, even though Adolph didn't say it. But evidently, Jerry Tarkanian came into the coaches area one morning and said, "Damn it, the NCAA is so upset with Kentucky, they're giving us another year probation."
Yeah, he's got some. My favorite Abe Lemons was he used to complain about Centenary and their recruiting. Centenary's in Louisiana, and the nickname is Gentleman. He complained that they had recruiting offices set up in every building he ever walked into.
that's funny. Yeah, Abe Lemons was quite the jokester. He didn't win much, at least at Texas he didn't win, but he was quite the jokester.
Yeah.
Well, we thank you guys out there for listening, and look forward to having you back. And again, thanks for listening. Take care.
Thanks all.
Thank y'all. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to Kentucky Basketball Then and Now. Mixed by soundsational audio expert Daniel Dottridge of Atlanta Podcast Recording, with web hosting by Buzzsprout. On behalf of hosts Gary Waddell and Mike Harreld, go Big Blue.